All right, this is Morgan with winterwarfare.com, and so in today's video, what I want to do is go over some basic winter tactical gear that I have. This is some of the basic stuff for not only shooting. We'll go over a couple of the rifles that I have. We'll talk about some sniper stuff. We'll talk about some mobility equipment. I have my skis here. I have a polk sled here. And we're just gonna, and also have a couple different sets of camo. And so we're gonna just have a little conversation about some rolls, some of this gear. I guess I should mention too my battle light infantry suspension system that I have on. So we'll have a little discussion about, you know, hopefully just some considerations, just like usual. Everybody has a little bit different environment and a little different mission that you're up to. And at least in my area of operations, I'm in the Western Rockies, and you know, there's 3 or 4 feet of snow on the ground right now. And so there's some equipment that I need, at least in my area of operations. So some of this might be applicable to you. Some may not. Some parts may, some may not. But again, they're just considerations for you and a conversation to have. I could also remind guys too that when you think about your area of operations, it could be very unsuspecting that maybe for most people, this is just the fact of geography. Take a protractor and just draw a 2-hour or a couple 100-mile circle around where you live. And for many people, you might be surprised that there's different geographical hills, mountains, and things that you might have to contend with in a tactical situation. So some of the gear that you might have is for different areas. I think it's very realistic to say that you should have the gear to do what you need to do within a 200-mile radius of your area of operation. I think that's a very fair thing. Of course, if you're a professional soldier, you'll have different gear sets, and those different gear sets that you have will be, you know, ready bags for desert operations, ready bag for, you know, winter mountainous areas and things like this. So there's a couple of ways to look at it as a professional soldier, or maybe for some guys out there that are the citizen soldiers. So let's get into some of the gear that I have. And to start off, the first thing that I want to mention is our, this is the Calder Ice Raider tack sled, and this is actually an item that we are now making here in Idaho. This polk sled is a kind of a mission critical item to be out. The cool thing about the sled that we have, the Ice Raider, is that it rolls up, but we're talking about mobility here. And so if I could just, it might be hard to see, but I have 36-inch snowshoes on. This is about the biggest snowshoe you can get. You know, I'm not a, you know, tiny little guy. I'm a, you know, 200 pounds. So I got a bigger snowshoe. And these are 36-inch tubs. But even with these on, I could easily sink down a foot in the snow. That's how much powder we're dealing with here. So if you need to carry any sustainment gear, the sled is going to be a critical item. And especially in some situations too, I could be doing different things. For example, I could be on my skis pulling my sled. I could be on my snowshoes pulling my sled. And in the sled, I have my sustainment gear. It just makes it easier for me to operate. Also makes it a lot less sweaty for me to operate. Maybe sometimes different things are going on, but again, there's a lot of variables involved, and every situation's different. The point is like just like a professional soldier, a lot of the gear that you have, it just depends on what's happening with your mission. It depends on what the environment's doing, the weather, all kinds of things like that. So that's the sled. The next item that I want to talk about, let's talk about the skis. So the skis that I have, guys out there, you have basically two options. So option number one is basically, let's just call it like your standard NATO one each cross-country ski. And those are your long, skinny cross-country skis. You could look that up, NATO cross-country ski or something like that. And basically the Army has two trains of thought. If you talk about a professional setting, some guys are assault skiers, and that's where this is going to come in. Other guys are just your ground soldiers, and the Army is going to issue you cross-country skis. And the purpose of that isn't to assault in them, or isn't to like do any real high-speed tactical maneuvers in those cross-country skis. The purpose of those is the Army just kind of looks at it like this. We need to move these soldiers from here, from point A to point B, and we just want to move them there more quickly. What could we do to do that? Other than just walking. Walking's not quick enough. So we'll issue them cross-country skis. The next option up from there is basically what I have here. And so I'll explain a couple things about this, because a little bit of this is new to me too. And I guess I should say that I'm former infantry, former airborne. I did, my time doing that. I'm not a huge professional. I think, as I've mentioned in several of the videos before, I'm really more of just a professional. I'm a concerned citizen. So let's talk about this ski that I have here. This is new to me. Skiing is not new to me, and I need to explain that, because at this level that we're talking about here, if you haven't skied before, this is not going to be an option for you. Cross-country skiing, just getting your basic NATO cross-country ski would suit you very well, and some snowshoes. That could help you significantly in a mountain or wilderness environment. If you want to go up a level from that, you'll be looking at basically Alpine touring. And this, as I mentioned, I'm not a pro at this. So this is a little bit new to me, and I'll kind of explain like how I got some of this stuff going. Part of it is, again, go back to the beginning of the conversation. I need something in my area of operations where I can get around. And also I have kind of ideas on some different missions that I could run, or operational, tactical operational things that I might need to be doing out in these woods or in a winter environment. And that's where this whole kind of setup came to be. The long story short is I need to be able to operate in my area of operations, or, as I mentioned earlier, for many of you guys, maybe you don't live in a mountainous environment, you live at a lower elevation, but I highly encourage you to take a protractor and draw a 200-mile circle around your city. And I think many of you are going to be surprised to find that there's mountains there. And the whole point of that, and the whole point of this whole gear and discussion, is not being taken advantage of. It's about me having the advantage. I want the advantage. I want the mobility. I don't want to be limited in what I can do in a winter environment, because if I am, I could just get rolled up on, and it's just that simple. So let's talk about this Alpine touring ski and this setup just for a couple minutes, and we're going to talk about the Ruck that I have for a couple minutes, and we're going to talk about my long-range rifle, or however you want to call that, for a couple minutes, and we're going to talk about camo for a couple minutes. So this Alpine touring ski, the cool thing, or what makes this ski unique is, I think at least for the longest time, all I was really ever aware of was just downhill skiing. And I want to preface this with, I'm an okay, or I'm a pretty good downhill skier. You know, you go to the ski hill, you go to groom runs, very familiar with that. No problem with that, because I would not recommend these if you know, if you haven't skied before, this would be a pretty big learning curve to get into the skiing part. If you do want to get into skiing, what I would do is I'd go to a ski hill. But what makes this unique is the binding. The cool thing about this binding is this is called the Salomon S-Lab shift binding. And the cool thing about this shift binding is there's a special pin in here that fits in my ski boot, and the back of the binding unlocks. So basically I could traverse in these just like a snow ski. I'm sorry, as just like a cross-country ski. So essentially this can be a cross-country ski or a downhill ski. I change the binding back, and once I change the binding back, it's basically a normal ski binding, and I could you know, traverse back down the hill, you know, roll up on the bad guys, you know, in an assault type manner, in a tactical manner, essentially. There's another part to this ski too that I want to mention, and it goes with the binding. And one thing I was going to mention was this whole kind of setup came from my my good buddy Luke. And Luke just ETS'd. He was in the 11th Airborne up in Alaska, and he was an assault skier, and he's a very good skier, and he's a very good winter tactical guy. He's very knowledgeable. He's a hunter. And so through some conversations that I was having with Luke, I said, hey, what do you recommend? And he had mentioned the Alpine touring. And I just, like I mentioned, I just wasn't that familiar with it. The downhill skiing, yes. Knew quite a bit about that, no problems. But let me talk about one more part, and we'll try to move on. Okay, one more part of the Alpine ski. And the thing about these skis too is they're a little bit wider. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm still not quite sure if there's a couple different ways you can go. You can get a little shorter ski, and you're going to be a little more maneuverable. I opted with just a little taller ski, just because, as I mentioned, this powder out here, you know, we're just out in no man's land. This is not groom stuff, and that's exactly what these skis are designed for backcountry skiing. This is all just go where you want to go and do what you need to do, skiing anywhere you want. But I went with a little longer, just because, as I showed you, even with these 36-inch tub snowshoes, you can easily sink down a foot. So I went a little longer. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. You know, have to reevaluate that. But another part that goes with these skis is this. These are called skins. And again, this is just some things that I've just become familiar with, or I'm getting more familiar with. But essentially what these skins do is these skins roll out, and they go on the back side of your ski, and they just attach on, and essentially it's a special 3M adhesive that goes on here. And so I can tack these on, and I can take them off, and essentially what the skin is, it's like a one-way it's a one-way material, and so I can put these on and actually ascend uphill with these, because it's not going to let me slide back. It's kind of like a chameleon skin almost. And when I'm done, when I reach the top of the hill, you just simply peel these off, and now and change your binding back, and now you're skiing back downhill. But a key part is that skin. These skins are, as a matter of fact, the G3 skin. So just give you guys a couple gear ideas. Okay, the next item I want to talk about is my ruck itself. And so this is an Elberstock ruck, and there's a reason why I want to bring the ruck into the conversation, because you guys have heard all this before. But this ruck has some unique feature in it, and it's exactly why I got it. Because it goes with my long-range rifle here. So inside the ruck itself is a pull-out scabbard. And this scabbard pulls out. And essentially my long-range rifle fits up in here. The barrel fits up here, and then at the bottom there's a bottom part that pulls out of the ruck. So my entire rifle fits right down in here, and it helps me carry that. And so again, let's go back to part of this conversation for me is, you know, a winter sniper role, and having, you know, the gear to execute that mission. By having that ruck, I can put my rifle, so what I have, this is not a high dollar rifle, this is a Howa APC. I run a Vortex PST-2 optic on it. I have an Atlas bipod on it, muzzle brake. So the Howa APC, I have shot 1,000 yards with this before. I like the long range shoot, and I think a lot of guys do out there, or maybe that might be something that you do want to look at. For me, I don't know, maybe think about like the rodeo. What's the purpose of the rodeo? The purpose of the rodeo is to show off your skills as a cowboy, right? And you know, there's different soldier skills that you need as well. And I don't know, you know, if I necessarily need to ever really consider taking a 1,000-yard shot, because that's pretty far. But for me, it's more of just the skill of knowing I can. Maybe it's just the confidence, and part of it is just kind of the hobbiness of it for me, of just having a fun, you know, activity that I like to do, you know, other than watching the stupid NFL these days and all that bull crap that's on TV. But I need a way to take this, you know, rifle to where I need to go with my snowshoes, with my skis, with my, you know, Ice Raider, Calder Ice Raider, you know, polk type sled. And that ruck is going to be a big part of this, you know, putting this weapon system into place. And so in this setup, basically I have my primary rifle, just my 16-inch AR, and we've made a video on this. So my friend in Lewiston actually made this in Lewiston and put this together for me. I might just simply take this as my primary, and my primary is just going to be strapped to my chest, and in my ruck or on the sled I'm going to have my, you know, sniper weapon system, if you will, my civilian version of it, I guess you could say. And one part of that too is the sled itself. So let's talk about that for 1 second. So we talked about the sled, but let's just go back to it really quick. And one thing about this sled too is simply just using the sled, not only to carry your sustainment gear, which you need. And I should mention some of the climate and environment today. It's only 28 here today. It's not freezing. It's just been snowing off and on. Honestly, it really hasn't snowed until the last couple days here. It's been a very, very, just like last winter, it's been a very wet, wet winter here in the Western Rockies. So all this snow is basically, the last couple days. But if I'm going to shoot this weapon system, I have a couple options to do that. In 3 feet of snow, I either have to put my ruck down, and I'm going to rest the rifle on my ruck because for obvious reasons, you know, a 36-inch snowshoe is going to sink a foot in the snow. What do you think is going to happen to your rifle? You're just going to be buried. You're just going to be up to your head, you know, trying to lay out in the prone. It's not going to even be possible. So 2 options that I have. I either lay my ruck down and I'm using my ruck as a support, not just a support, but it's more or less trying to get it from sinking in the snow. The other option that I have is my Ice Raider sled. And so very easily, I'm just going to plop this down. I mean, this sled, I could use it as a support platform, shooting platform. And so there's another purpose for this too. I can tag this thing along, I can roll it up. I could also put this sled on my ruck. And in these deep conditions, you're pretty much hosed. You know, if you're out in an open area, your bipod, you're just going to sink down up to your neck in snow. So that's another thing about this. And again, the sniper mission, I guess if you could say. So for me, you know, everybody's got a different area of operation. Everybody's got different, you know, things that they think, different possibilities. So as I mentioned, for me, the sniper mission, the winter sniper mission, I think in my mind, all I could tell you is in these woods, you're going to be lethal. In these woods, you'll be very lethal because nobody's going to see you, and you're going to be a menace. You're going to be a very big menace. You'll be some guys will be second guessing your actions because they're not going to see you, they're not going to hear you, and so I don't. That just, for me personally, everybody's got to do their little thing. That just seems intriguing to me, and a much needed role. You could also have support by fire missions and things like that. So that's a little bit of the sled, my sniper weapon system, civilian version, if you will, employing that or taking that with my ruck, the scabbard that's in my Elberstock ruck. So let's talk about a couple items now as far as the camo. So I think you could see, but this is my Finish MO5 camo that I have on. There's a couple more items to talk about that I actually have on here. So my Finish MO5 camo is some of the best stuff available, but I need to caveat that because there's times, most of the time I'm not going to wear this, so let me explain that. If you look at the trees right now, this is not most of the time. And so when I'm thinking about winter camouflage and concealment, and it's a huge, it's a very, very important topic. Winter, just like in any time of the season, winter has its unique challenges though, because in this environment, it's always changing. It's a new day every day. And so you could find yourself going through microclimates. You could find yourself being in different areas and also different elevations where different things are happening. And the snow and your contrasting background is all different in those. But let me just explain in general. As I mentioned, this is my Finish MO5. Most of the time, I'm not going to wear this. And the reason why is because most of the time, there's not snow on the trees. The most effective time, or I think only time in my mind, and everybody's got their own, their own thoughts. The only time I'm going to wear this is when there's snow in the trees, okay? But let me tell you what I'm going to wear most of the time. Most of the time, there's not snow in the trees. The snow in the trees obviously is just, within a day or two of it snowing. And sometimes very quickly in this environment, it could snow you know, giant snowflakes, you got snow in the trees, and all of a sudden this is just, you know, worth its weight in gold. You're not going to be found in this. But then very quickly, the clouds could leave and all the snow could melt off in just a couple hours, and then you're just left with the snow on the ground and the snow in the trees. And so really the primary camo scheme that I'm going to wear out here primarily is, I'm just going to zip this down just a hair. Underneath, typically what I'm going to wear is just my OCP or multicam camouflage top, and that's when there's no snow in the trees. And part of that has to do with my background. There's a lot of variables. Okay, there's a lot of variables, and each environment's different. This is just me and some of my general thoughts of what I'm going to do. Maybe it might give you a few ideas. If there's no snow in the trees, I'm going to wear my camo top, my multicam or woodland camo, whatever you got. And for a pant, I could wear my MO5, but I doubt it. What I'm going to primarily wear is just a white bottom. So I have a second set of camo, which is my primary. As I mentioned, that even as awesome that this, you know, finish MO5 is, most of the time my environment's not like this. Okay, this is just like, you know how like grandma has that special china that she brings out, you know, for Christmas dinner. That's kind of that's kind of in my area. You know, when I bring out my finished MO5, it's just like bringing out grandma's special china at Christmas dinner. Because primarily what I'm going to wear is just all white. If there's no snow in the trees, I just wear my white bottoms. Or I could wear white bottoms and tops. So an alternate, as opposed to the finished MO5 in today's scenario with snow in the trees, in lieu of the finished MO5, I could wear white bottoms and just a white top. That's going to be very effective as well. It's just the finished MO5 is just nice to have. Most guys aren't going to be able to do that. Many guys have budget constraints. So again, some of these are just ideas and different looks, things that you could consider, things that you might want to do. But what I could tell you about my just all white parka and top, these are some items that we actually sell at winterwarfare.com. It's not, these aren't military spec, but what I just tell guys, and again, this just goes back to my time in the infantry, these are just highly durable. A lot of hunters, you know, get these. True Timber is a very legit, even though it's civilian. What I could tell guys is, for the price of this winter camo set from True Timber, the waterproof parka, waterproof pant and parka, for the price of these, you won't find anything better that's as durable. Like, I could legit wear that in a tactical situation, and I wear mine all the time. In lieu of this, I could wear my True Timber. Oh, so what I was going to say is, even though this is, the True Timber is not mil spec, I think what I wanted to mention is, mentioning this is just for a guy out there who's not going to get anything. Okay, so what I would propose to you is, instead of getting nothing, maybe you're on a budget or something, instead of getting nothing, get these True Timber waterproof top and bottom. They also come in a tundra pattern as well. As I mentioned, this is one item that we do sell on our website. So those are a couple use cases. So again, let's go back to the concealment camouflage conversation. If there's snow on the trees, this is most of the time, okay, or a couple generalizations. If there's snow on the trees, my top and bottom will be either white or my finished MO5. If there's no snow on the trees, I'm gonna just go with my multicam top. So my top will be multicam and my bottom will be the pant. And part of that due to, you have to look at your contrasting background. Maybe you're on a hilltop. And on that hill, maybe you're above the tree line. At some certain elevation, you go above the tree line and you're just, it's just all white up there. In that case, then I might be just, all white. If I'm at a lower elevation, I got green trees with no snow on them, but white. Part of that too is some of this isn't, this is not rocket science. This is just a matter of just being out and doing it. And some of these are just my opinions. But when you look out at the horizon, as I'm walking to you or somebody is walking to you, that horizon is split. So on the top part of the horizon, you're going to have green trees, and on the bottom, white snow. And that is highly effective in doing that. The other reason that you might want to wear the, reason and also when to wear a green top. Again, if there's no snow on the trees, one major consideration that everybody needs to take into mind these days is being identified by drones. Okay, and what I could tell you is that, and again, this is a part of where I am or what I'm doing. But if I'm in a treed area, there's snow on the ground, and the trees are green, I'm still going to want to wear my green top, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're looking at a drone from top down, there's a lot of green on these trees. Maybe not right now because the snow's on them. Again, we're talking about no snow on these trees. A drone looking down, that green top, they're going to see green tree and me green top. Even though my pant bottoms could be completely white, it's still going to help conceal me. So now, if I'm in an open, totally open, maybe it's a lowland area, maybe it's just an opening, some type of danger area, I don't know. I could, and there's no snow on the trees, but I'm in just a totally snowed open area, I would go white. That's just me. And again, part of that is not just from what's happening on the ground or what's in my background, but I also need to consider the aerial aspect and the drone, the drone signature, if you will. It's not foolproof. Depends on what's happening with the drones. It's a whole nother side conversation. Does the drone have thermal capabilities and things like this? I don't know. I'm just making some general comments. There's a lot of variables that go into these discussions. So, okay. So let's talk about one more item that I have on. And I'm really excited about this. So this whole kind of conversation today is about employing a sniper weapon system in a winter environment, I guess, if you could, or winter sniper. And the Finns know a lot about that from the Winter War. They did some huge damage to the commies, some of their snipers. And so you could just see just how powerful, if you look at that chessboard, how powerful of a piece that sniper piece is. And force protection, and kind of, it's almost a psyop, if you will, because if you've seen any of the stories about Samuel Hayek in Finland or Carlos Hathcock or anything like this, it's just a huge menace. It's a mental fear, I think. So one more part of this whole sniper kind of discussion that we've had, and it's not an exclusive sniper discussion. Some of it's just talking about, winter mobility and camouflage and some different things that are going on. is my load-bearing equipment that I'm wearing right now. And so what I'm actually wearing, this is another item that we sell on our website. We exclusively sell this, so let me talk about it. It's called the Bliss. The Bliss is the Battle Light Infantry Suspension System. And so I have a harness system with a MOLLE belt, a full MOLLE belt, but it's a load-bearing equipment setup, essentially, if you will. And on my setup, I have several, as you can see, Alpine MOLLE pouches and an Nalgene pouch and different things like that. But one of the things I wanted to mention is my rifle system is a 308. And so let's talk about that really quick. So I have my Bliss on, and the thing that I would mention about this Bliss system, you can't find these anywhere else, Winter Warfare exclusive on these. My buddy Josh at Cedar Sewing in Wyoming makes this Bliss system. Now I have a couple things, and we'll just talk about this stuff for a minute, because all this comes into play of getting a mission done, right? In my case, in a winter situation. Now Josh at Cedar Sewing, he sells this Bliss. You know, they got M81, the woodland camo, they got all kinds of different patterns. But as far as the Alpine, nobody else has that. And I can just personally tell you, just from my experience, finding some of the winter, straight up winter tactical stuff is nearly impossible. And or a lot of times the big companies are just, they're not going to do it, right? So the big companies aren't going to make the winter stuff because they can't sell 6 million of them or whatever. But the cool thing about my setup is I have a couple rifle magazine pouches, and these pouches are called the DRIP, which stands for the double rifle insert pouch. I have 3 of them on. One of them I have dedicated for my 308. And here's the cool thing about this DRIP pouch. The DRIP double rifle insert pouch in Alpine, also made by my buddy Josh at Cedar Sewing in Wyoming. Is these magazine pouches hold either a 5.56 mag or a 308. It just doesn't get any better than that for me, because my long range, rifle weapon system is a 308. It takes 308 mags, and this DRIP actually holds the 308 mags in it, and it also holds 5.56. 2 5.56 holds 2 5.56 or 2 308 mags. They also have the hoods on them. So part of what Cedar Sewing, Josh at Cedar Sewing and I talked about when we made these, or when he made these for us, was having these lids on them to keep the snow out. So in my role, let's just say, winter sniper role, I got 2 308 mags that I can keep on me. And then, as I mentioned too, my AR, which is my primary weapon system, I have 2 AR mags ready to go. Primarily carry my AR on me. And in my ruck, in the scabbard stowed away, is my long range, rifle system or weapon system, however you want to say that. And when I'm ready to rock and roll, I have a couple of my 308 mags that fit in the DRIP, my AR mags that fit in the DRIP, my 5.56 AR mags that fit in the DRIP. So it's a dual purpose. It's just perfect. It's a good setup for me. Another thing that I have on here too is a A42. This is a multi-purpose pouch. These are made by Shepherd Associated. Call it admin pouch. Another thing that I have on here is my water Nalgene pouch. These are also Cedar Sewing. So this entire setup, all these pouches, the DRIP, the A42s from Shepherd, the Bliss that you just can't find anywhere, and it's a hugely needed item. One thing that I could just mention is that I see a lot of guys that wear the Alpine chest rigs, and I see a lot of those seem to be readily available But for me and my mission, imagine being out in these woods and you're in a sustained environment. You need, I need more load. I need more load, and I think, as they've mentioned, you know, on this Bliss load-bearing system, battle light infantry suspension system, more is more. Okay, and I can put more on this, and I can be out here longer. I got my water. If I'm just running the chest rig, this is just my opinion. It's only my opinion. Those are for very short, you know, CQB-ish type, you know, maybe some type of urban. I'm not saying you couldn't use a chest rig out here. I do have a couple myself, but if I have my chest rig on, then I also have to have some type of belt or camelback with my water, or, you know, all kinds of water in my ruck. It just doesn't seem like it's just getting the job done for me. But some of that is just personal preference. And again, whether or not you're going to, you know, run the Bliss or just a chest rig, that's really your personal preference. But what it depends on is your mission, okay? And as I mentioned, you know, if you're going to employ or deploy this, you know, sniper weapon system, if you will, I need magazine pouches for that. So I could either change all these out to just run 308 mags, or I could have a combo. You know, on my way there, I have my AR. It's my primary, kind of my secondary mission, or en route, my AR or my long-range rifle is stowed away. So a couple other small items that you might want to consider too would be the scrim that I'm wearing. So this scrim that I have on my helmet, this actually comes from Shepherd. The scrim actually comes from Shadow Equipment, and it just helps with the concealment. And as far as gloves, just a couple last items and we'll wrap up this conversation. As far as gloves, guys messaged me quite a bit about gloves. Another glove that I actually have that I don't think we can get right now is the Outdoor Research modular glove system. The outer shell of that, these aren't them, but the modular glove system is basically a military issue item. The outer shell of it's Gore-Tex, and then there's basically an inner insulated part that fits into that. And I run those quite a bit, especially if it's going to be really cold. But with a lot of the things going on in the world, you just can't get some of this stuff. So sometimes guys ask me, these gloves right here, these are just snowboarder gloves. And don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to mix and match, because when you're starting to talk about, you know, hey, I want to be in a winter tactical environment, don't be afraid to cherry pick civilian items, as long as it's not clownish. So I'll give you another example, I guess, if you will. My skis. There's a lot of backcountry skis that are neon green. Okay, I happen to luck out, in which I wouldn't have done otherwise, but these are the Atomic Backland 109. Okay, see, they're white. Same thing, right? I can find civilian snowboard gloves in white, and I run these a lot. Another thing you can do is just get your common, it's like a ski glove insert liner. It's like a very thin glove that goes inside. It's going to add a little bit more to these. So, but in general, I'd have a couple pair of gloves. I'd have a couple sets of camo, because again, as you see the environment, you know, it can change quickly, right? The snow can be on the trees, it can be off the trees in hours. You could be a higher elevation, lower elevation. All these things can change very quickly as far as what I'm going to do, what I'm going to wear, what I'm going to need. The last item is my balaclava and goggle kit. This is another item that we sell. This is the Revision Snowhawk Essential Kit, and what it comes with is this white balaclava, which is really cool. There's a magnetic part in the nose piece of this that matches up with my goggle, and so it clicks into place. There's a little vent hole here. Some balaclavas, it's just a balaclava, right? There's no like venting portion. There is a little like a venting portion on this. They've thought this through pretty good. This isn't a super insulated balaclava, but it does work very well. But what I could tell you about having the goggles and the balaclava is it is an essential item. It's a mission critical item. Having goggles in this environment is mission critical for a couple reasons. A couple years ago, actually the last 2 winters here, it will be -20. And as a matter of fact, another polar vortex is coming through. It's going to get cold again. But it can be -20 here. And if it's -5 and the wind's blowing 15-20 miles an hour, your eyes are just going to glass over and freeze. Or another situation, maybe you're on a snow machine and you're moving along. Some of you guys already know this because you do this, but some of the things in this conversation are just, it's just a talking out loud, learning discussion, I guess, and just kind of sharing ideas. So for those of you that don't know, let's just say you're on a snow machine and you're going down the road and it's snowing. You're not going to be able to see, right? You need the goggles because the snow is just going to literally be hitting you in the eyes. I could also be skiing, and some of you have done this as well. If I'm skiing downhill and the wind's blowing a couple miles an hour, if I'm going 10, 15, 20 miles an hour downhill or whatnot, and it's snowing, snow's going to be coming in my face. As I mentioned, maybe it's -20 and the wind's blowing. So the goggles are really a mission critical item of you being able to operate and, see and identify things that are happening, see and identify threats that are out there. I mean, you're going to have a hard time doing that if your, eyes are squinting and you literally just you got a icicle on the lens of your eye because it's -20 and it's just, your eyes are mainly water. So some of this is protective gear, some of it's just mission gear. But I think with that, I think that kind of wraps up the conversation. Hopefully these were just some things for you guys to think about, and just different topics. And I enjoy all the comments, and enjoy having everybody along. And I think that's about all I have. So with that, this is Morgan at winterwarfare.com. I really appreciate your guys' time. I love talking to all you guys, and that's all I got. Morgan out.